The massive windows of the Alliance Council chamber showed a stream of refugee ships entering human space. Their worn-out engines left trails of blue light against the black canvas of space. Captain James Miller stood at the observation deck, his hands clasped behind his back, watching as another group of aliens fled their dying worlds. The chamber itself was huge, built to hold representatives of 30 different species. Today, only 23 seats were filled. The empty chairs told their own story. Entire civilizations gone, consumed by the unstoppable force known as the Swarm. Another system has fallen, announced Council Leader Reed, his voice heavy with defeat. The holographic display in the center of the room showed the Andromeda arm of the galaxy, with red markers spreading like a disease across the stars. The Swarm has consumed the Beta Centauri colonies, all 50 million inhabitants, lost. Miller's jaw tightened. He had seen the reports. Entire planets stripped bare of life, transformed into barren rocks by the endless hunger of the Swarm. The hive mind species didn't negotiate, didn't show mercy, and didn't stop. They simply consumed everything in their path. "Our best weapons barely scratched their ships," said Admiral Thompson, the human representative to the Council. He pointed at the battle footage playing above their heads. "Look at how they adapt. Every time we find a weakness, they change their armor, their tactics, their very biology to counter it." The footage showed Alliance battleships, the pride of a dozen advanced civilizations, firing their energy weapons at the Swarm vessels. The biomechanical horrors simply absorbed the attacks, their outer shell evolving mid-battle to reflect the energy back at their attackers. 12 civilizations, whispered a tall, blue-skinned council member. 12 entire species wiped out in the past year alone. We are facing extinction. Miller walked closer to the hologram, studying the pattern of the Swarm's advance. As Earth's top military commander, he had spent countless hours analyzing their movement. There was always a pattern, if you knew where to look. The council chamber erupted in arguments. Some wanted to abandon the outer colonies and fortify their core worlds. Others suggested trying to communicate with the Swarm again, despite hundreds of failed attempts. A few even proposed using banned weapons that would destroy entire solar systems. "The Swarm will reach Earth in 6 months. Miller spoke for the first time, his voice cutting through the chaos. The room fell silent. "They'll hit Mars first, then our lunar colonies. After that, Earth itself. And what would humans know about fighting such an advanced enemy?" asked one of the council members, his tone dismissive. "Your species only achieved faster than light travel 50 years ago. Some of us have been exploring the stars for millennia." Miller turned to face the alien, his expression calm but firm. "We know more than you think. Humanity has spent most of its history fighting. Against nature, against each other, against extinction itself. We've survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, and our own destructive tendencies." He walked to the center of the room, all eyes following him. "While your civilizations were achieving peace and harmony, we were preparing for the worst. While you were building beautiful ships with powerful energy weapons, we were thinking about how to defeat enemies that couldn't be killed by conventional means." The hologram switched to show Earth's solar system. Deep within Jupiter's orbit, something massive was under construction. Most of the council members leaned forward, seeing it for the first time. "We've been building this in secret for 5 years, Miller revealed. "It's not pretty. It's not elegant. But it will work." "What makes you so sure?" asked Council Leader Reed. Miller's eyes reflected the red glow of the Swarm's advance on the holographic map. "Because we designed it to do one thing: survive. And survival is something humans understand better than anyone." As if to emphasize his words, another alert flashed across the hologram. Another system had fallen to the Swarm. Another species faced extinction. But for the first time in months, there was something other than despair in the council chamber. There was hope. 5 years earlier, beneath the icy surface of Europa, humanity's greatest secret took shape in a massive underground facility. Dr. Anna Wells stood at her control station, watching as robotic arms assembled another section of the massive warship. The vessel's dark hull seemed to absorb the bright work lights, making it look like a piece of night sky had fallen into the construction bay. "Run the tests again," she ordered, her eyes fixed on the data streaming across her screens. The team had been working for 20 hours straight, but no one complained. They all knew what was at stake. Project Prometheus wasn't just another warship. It was humanity's answer to a question the galaxy hadn't asked yet. What happens when conventional weapons fail? While other species focused on energy weapons and shield technology, humans had taken a different approach. "Material testing complete," reported Tom Baker, the lead engineer. His tired face lit up with a smile. "The nanofabricators are working perfectly. The hull can now repair itself 3 times faster than our initial estimates." Anna nodded, allowing herself a small moment of pride. The ship's outer layer contained billions of microscopic machines, each one programmed to adapt and evolve. It was the opposite of the beautiful crystalline ships used by the Alliance. This was ugly, practical, and terrifyingly effective. Director Wells called out a voice from the observation deck. "The General is here." General Robert Stone walked into the control room, his presence immediately drawing attention. He was one of the few people who knew the true purpose of Project Prometheus, not just as a defensive weapon, but as humanity's insurance policy against extinction. "Show me," he said simply. Anna pressed a few buttons, and the main screen displayed their latest breakthrough. "We've cracked it, sir. The ship's artificial intelligence can now process combat data and adapt its strategies in real time. We're calling it Edison." The general watched as the simulation played out. A swarm of enemy ships attacked, using tactics similar to those observed in distant galaxy battles. The massive human warship, nearly 3 kilometers long, moved with surprising grace. Its surface rippled like liquid metal, changing shape to deflect attacks. "And the main weapon?" Stone asked. Anna switched to another display. "That's the beautiful part. While everyone else is trying to build bigger guns, we went smaller. Much smaller." The screen showed microscopic machines, each one smaller than a human cell. They're designed to infiltrate enemy biomechanical systems and turn them against themselves. The more advanced the enemy, the more vulnerable they are to our attack. "Like a virus," Stone mused. "More like evolution in fast forward," Tom corrected. "These machines learn and adapt faster than anything in known space. And the best part? They only respond to our commands. No one can turn them against us." The general walked closer to the massive window overlooking the construction bay. The ship's angular shape and dark surface made it look more like a mobile fortress than a traditional spacecraft. "How long until it's ready?" 6 months for basic operations," Anna replied. "A year to full capacity. We're pushing the boundaries of known science here, sir. No one has ever built anything like this." Stone nodded slowly. "Let's hope we never need to use it." He turned to face the team. "But if we do, it needs to work perfectly. The first time. There won't be second chances." As if emphasizing his words, the massive ship's surface rippled again, testing its adaptive capabilities. The sight reminded Anna of old videos showing sharks swimming in dark water, a perfect predator, evolved over millions of years for one purpose. "We're not building this to win battles," Anna said quietly. "We're building this to win wars, to survive anything the galaxy throws at us." The general placed a hand on the cold glass. "The Alliance thinks we're primitive because we still study war while they pursue peace. They don't understand that peace is precious precisely because we know war so well." Below them, the Prometheus continued to grow, layer by layer, system by system. It was humanity's greatest achievement and darkest secret, a weapon built not for glory or power, but for survival. They all hoped it would never be needed, but deep down, they knew better. The battle for the Orion system lasted exactly 6 minutes and 23 seconds. It was the fastest fall of a defended system in galactic history. Admiral Marcus stood on the bridge of the Alliance flagship, Star Guardian, watching as the combined fleet of 6 species moved into defensive positions. 200 ships, the most advanced vessels ever built, formed a wall of steel and energy between the incoming swarm and the civilian evacuation ships. Enemy vessels entering sensor range, reported his tactical officer. The main screen filled with red dots, thousands of them. The swarm ships looked like massive insects, their biomechanical hulls pulsing with a sickly green light. "All ships, battle formation Delta," Marcus ordered. His voice was steady, though his hands gripped the command rail tightly. "Remember your training. We just need to hold them back long enough for the evacuation." The first wave of swarm ships hit the Alliance line like a tidal wave hitting a sandcastle. Energy beams from Alliance vessels cut through space, destroying dozens of enemy ships. But for every swarm vessel destroyed, 10 more took its place. "Sir, they're adapting." The sensor officer's voice shook. "Their hulls are changing composition. Our weapons are becoming less effective with each shot." Marcus watched as the pride of the Alliance fleet, the dreadnought Light of Dawn, fired its main cannon. The beam of pure energy, powerful enough to crack a planet's crust, struck a large swarm ship. The enemy vessel's surface rippled, absorbed the energy, and sent it back with twice the power. The Light of Dawn exploded in a flash of light that briefly outshone the system's sun. "Evacuation status," Marcus demanded, trying to keep his voice calm as another Alliance ship exploded. 60% of civilians still planet-side," came the response. "We need at least 15 more minutes." They didn't have 15 minutes. The swarm had already broken through their first line of defense. Alliance ships were being torn apart, their advanced shields useless against weapons that evolved mid-battle to counter them. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from Earth Command. They say to hold position for 7 more minutes. Help is coming." Marcus almost laughed. Help? What help could possibly make a difference now? He had the best ships of 6 advanced civilizations under his command, and they were being slaughtered. A swarm ship larger than the others emerged from the mass. Its surface was covered in what looked like eyes, each one studying the Alliance tactics, learning, adapting. Ships near it began to move with more purpose, more coordination. The hive mind was taking direct control. "All remaining ships, fall back to position Beta," Marcus ordered. "Concentrate fire on the smaller vessels. We can't let them reach the civilian ships." The Alliance fleet regrouped, forming a tighter defensive line. Energy weapons, plasma torpedoes, and gravity bombs struck the advancing swarm. But it wasn't enough. It was never going to be enough. "Sir, 3 minutes until the swarm reaches the evacuation lanes," reported his tactical officer. "We've lost 60% of our combat vessels." Marcus closed his eyes for a moment. All their technology, all their advancement, and they were helpless against this enemy. The swarm didn't fight like a normal army. It fought like a force of nature, endless, relentless, unstoppable. "New contact," the sensor officer suddenly shouted. "Single vessel entering the system at high speed." It's huge." Marcus turned to the tactical display. A new dot had appeared, moving faster than any ship he'd ever seen. It was heading straight for the heart of the swarm fleet. "Getting identification now," the communications officer said. It's a human vessel. They're broadcasting on all frequencies." The message was simple, sent in clear text for all to see. "This is the EDS Retribution. Fall back, Admiral. We'll handle it from here." Marcus stared at his screen, not quite believing what he was seeing. The humans, the youngest, most primitive spacefaring race in the Alliance, were sending a single ship against the endless horror of the swarm. He was about to witness either humanity's finest hour or its last stand. Captain James Miller felt the deep hum of the Retribution's engines through his command chair. The massive warship dropped out of faster-than-light travel, its dark hull reflecting no light from the nearby sun. Behind him, the bridge crew worked in practiced silence, each member knowing their role in what would come next. "Edison, status report," Miller ordered. The ship's AI responded in a calm, measured voice. "All systems operational, Captain. Hull integrity at 100%. Nanoforges ready. Combat systems online." Through the main viewport, Miller could see the battle unfolding. The once proud Alliance fleet was in retreat, their ships looking small and fragile compared to the massive swarm of biomechanical horrors pursuing them. "Sir, receiving transmission from Admiral Marcus," reported his communications officer, Lisa Brown. "He's demanding to know what we think we're doing." Miller allowed himself a small smile. "Put him on screen." Admiral Marcus's face appeared, his alien features twisted in a mix of confusion and anger. "Captain Miller, what is the meaning of this? A single ship, no matter how large, cannot possibly—" "Admiral," Miller interrupted politely, "I suggest you move your remaining ships to a safe distance. What happens next might be difficult to explain." "Main swarm fleet is altering course," reported John Wilson from Tactical. "They're coming for us now. All of them." The scene before them was both terrifying and awe-inspiring. Thousands of swarm ships, ranging from small fighters to massive hive vessels, turned as one to face the retribution. Their biomechanical hulls pulsed with sickly green light, sensing new prey. "Edison," Miller said calmly, "show them why humans don't build pretty ships." The Retribution's hull began to change. What looked like solid metal became fluid, countless microscopic machines working in perfect harmony. The ship's shape shifted, angular surfaces becoming even more pronounced, creating the perfect geometry for what was to come. "Enemy ships entering weapons range," Wilson announced. "They're scanning us, trying to figure out what we are." "Let's give them a proper introduction," Miller said. "Edison, initiate Protocol Alpha. Target the nearest hive ship." The Retribution's response wasn't the elegant energy beams or plasma weapons the galaxy was used to. Instead, hundreds of launch ports opened along its hull, each releasing a cloud of particles too small to see with the naked eye. "Sir," Brown called out, "we're receiving demands for explanation from the Alliance Council. They want to know what we're deploying." "Tell them it's 5 years of human ingenuity," Miller replied, "and about 1,000,000 years of evolutionary warfare." The microscopic machines reached the first swarm ship. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then, like rust spreading across metal in fast forward, the enemy vessel's hull began to change. The sickly green glow flickered and died. "Nanite's performing as designed," Edison reported. "Enemy biomechanical systems are being reprogrammed at the cellular level, spreading to adjacent vessels through their own network." The swarm ships began to react, their surfaces changing as they tried to adapt. But for the first time, they were facing something that could evolve faster than they could. The Retribution's nanites had been designed by humans who had studied their own planet's endless cycle of predator and prey, of virus and host, of adaptation and counter-adaptation. "Sir," Wilson said, his voice filled with wonder, "the first hive ship. It's breaking apart. The swarm ships connected to it are losing cohesion." Miller watched as the massive enemy vessel literally disintegrated, its biomechanical components turning against each other. The effect spread like a wave through the nearby swarm ships, each one falling victim to humanity's weapon. "Send word to Earth Command," Miller ordered. "Project Prometheus is a success. The Retribution works exactly as designed." On the main screen, Admiral Marcus and the Alliance ships watched in stunned silence. They had expected energy weapons, perhaps some new kind of explosive. Instead, they were watching humanity wage war on a microscopic scale, turning the swarm's greatest strength, its ability to adapt, into a fatal weakness. The galaxy was learning an important lesson. Sometimes the most dangerous predators aren't the ones with the biggest teeth, but the ones who understand how nature itself wages war. The Retribution moved through the debris field of fallen swarm ships like a shark through bloody waters. Captain Miller watched as the larger hive ships began to pull back, finally showing something the swarm had never displayed before. Fear. Edison, status of the nanite swarms. Miller asked, his eyes fixed on the tactical display. Generation 3 nanites are now active, the AI reported. They've adapted to counter the swarm's latest biological changes. Effectiveness has increased by 27%. The battle had been raging for 30 minutes, and with each passing moment, humanity's weapon proved more devastating. The swarm tried to adapt, changing their ship's biological components, but the nanites evolved faster, turning their own adaptations against them. "Sir," called out Lisa Brown from communications, "we're getting strange readings from the largest hive ship. It's broadcasting something." The main screen filled with a cascade of biological data. The swarm wasn't just communicating, it was screaming. For the first time in its existence, it faced an enemy that could beat it at its own game of endless adaptation. "They're trying to warn the other hive ships," John Wilson realized, studying his tactical readings. "The surviving vessels are attempting to escape the system." Miller leaned forward in his command chair. "Not today. Edison, deploy the Phase 2 nanites. Let's show them why running from a human predator is never a good idea." New launch ports opened along the Retribution's hull. This time, the nanites that emerged were different. They moved faster, more aggressively, carrying an upgraded version of their basic programming. Phase 2 nanites are designed to spread through space, using the swarm's own communication network, Edison explained. They will infect any swarm ship that receives warnings from the infected vessels. The effect was immediate and devastating. As the surviving hive ships broadcast their warnings, they spread humanity's weapon to their own kind. Ship after ship began to break apart, their biomechanical systems turning against themselves. Admiral Marcus's voice came through the communication system. "Captain Miller, what we're seeing, it's impossible. How did humans develop this technology?" "We studied our own planet's history," Miller replied, watching another hive ship dissolve into space. "Earth taught us that in a battle between species, the winner isn't always the biggest or strongest. Sometimes it's the one that can turn its enemy's strength into a weakness." The Retribution's hull shifted again, adapting its shape to better spread its deadly cargo. The sight reminded Miller of documentaries about Earth's oceans, where tiny organisms could sometimes bring down creatures thousands of times their size. "Sir," Wilson reported, "the remaining swarm ships are attempting to jump to faster than light speed. Should we pursue?" Miller smiled grimly. "No need. The nanites are already in their systems. Wherever they go, they'll carry our message. Humanity is not prey." The bridge crew watched as the last few swarm ships vanished into FTL travel. The battle for the Orion system was over. Where once thousands of enemy ships had threatened the Alliance, now only clouds of dissolving biomatter remained. "Captain," Edison's voice held a note of satisfaction. "Analysis confirms 0 surviving swarm vessels in the system. The evacuation ships can safely return to their colonies." The Alliance fleet slowly moved forward, their crews still trying to process what they had witnessed. Humanity's warship hadn't just won a battle. It had changed the nature of warfare itself. "Sending battle data back to Earth Command," Lisa reported. They're celebrating, sir. The nanite weapon worked better than anyone hoped." Miller stood up, walking to the main viewport. The Retribution's dark hull now showed hints of the swarm biomatter it had consumed, using their own materials to strengthen itself. Another lesson learned from Earth's predators: waste nothing. "Send word to all Alliance worlds," he ordered. "Tell them humanity stands ready to defend any system threatened by the swarm. The hunting season has begun." As the message went out, Miller thought about how the galaxy would view humanity after this. They had just proved themselves to be more dangerous than the nightmare that had threatened to consume all life. And somehow, that felt exactly right. News of the Retribution's victory spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. In the Grand Council chamber, representatives from every surviving species gathered to watch the battle footage. The massive display showed the human warship unleashing its microscopic hunters against the swarm. "Impossible," whispered one council member, watching the swarm ships dissolve. "They turned the swarm's own biology against it." Dr. Anna Wells stood before the council, explaining humanity's weapon with the patience of a teacher. Behind her, holographic displays showed the nanites at work, breaking down and rebuilding swarm technology at the molecular level. "Our planet has been fighting biological wars for billions of years," she explained. "Every virus, every bacteria, every living thing on Earth is part of an endless arms race of adaptation. We simply learned from that history." The council chamber erupted in overlapping voices. Some members demanded immediate access to the technology. Others warned about the dangers of such a weapon. A few even suggested that humanity might be more dangerous than the swarm itself. "The Retribution has just destroyed another swarm fleet in the Beta sector," announced Admiral Thompson, reading from his datapad. "No survivors, no casualties on our side. Captain Miller reports the nanites are becoming even more effective with each encounter." The room fell silent at this news. The swarm, which had seemed unstoppable just days ago, was now running from a single human ship. "You don't understand what you've created," said one of the elder council members, his voice trembling. "A weapon that can evolve, that can think, that can spread across space itself." "We understand perfectly," Dr. Wells interrupted. "We created it because we had to. Because while the rest of the galaxy built bigger guns and stronger shields, we remembered what our own world taught us. In nature, the deadliest weapons are often invisible to the naked eye." The main screen switched to a live feed from the Retribution. The massive warship was different now. Its hull had incorporated materials from its fallen enemies, becoming a hybrid of human engineering and conquered swarm technology. "Edison." Captain Miller's voice came through the speakers. "Show them what we've learned." The AI displayed new data streams. The nanites weren't just destroying the swarm anymore. They were understanding it, learning its secrets, finding new ways to defeat it. With each battle, humanity's weapon became more efficient, more deadly. 3 more swarm fleets detected," Edison reported calmly. "They're trying to reach their central hive system." Pursuit course plotted. The council watched as the Retribution changed course, its dark hull rippling like the surface of a predatory sea creature. The ship they had once dismissed as primitive was now the most feared vessel in known space. "We're tracking the fleeing swarm ships," Admiral Thompson explained. "They're leading us back to their point of origin. Within weeks, we'll know where they came from." Dr. Wells stepped forward again, her voice firm. "Humanity doesn't want to rule the galaxy. We don't want to conquer or control. We simply want to survive and to help others survive. But make no mistake, we will use every tool at our disposal to achieve that goal." The council members looked at each other, a new understanding dawning in their eyes. They had misjudged humans, seeing their warlike nature as a weakness. Now they realized it was their greatest strength. "The Retribution has entered the Gamma Quadrant," Edison's voice announced. "Swarm resistance is decreasing. They appear to be learning fear." On the main screen, another swarm fleet dissolved into space, their biomechanical bodies turned to raw materials for humanity's evolving weapon. The galaxy was changing, becoming a place where the hunters had become the hunted. "We offer our protection to any world threatened by the swarm," Admiral Thompson declared. "But we also offer a warning. Humanity will do whatever it takes to survive. We've spent our entire history preparing for this moment, whether we knew it or not." As if to emphasize his words, the Retribution's silhouette appeared on the main screen, darker and more threatening than ever. The ship was no longer just a weapon. It was a symbol of humanity's role in the galaxy. The hunters had arrived, and the stars themselves seemed to hold their breath. The swarm's home system was exactly what Captain Miller had expected, a nightmare of biological engineering gone wrong. Massive organic structures floated in space, pulsing with sickly green light. At the center, a construct the size of a small moon hung like a twisted heart of darkness. "Edison," "Scan the central structure," Miller ordered, standing at the Retribution's main viewport. "Analyzing now," the AI responded. "It appears to be their primary hive center. The source of their collective consciousness is inside." The Retribution had changed during its hunt across the galaxy. Its hull now shimmered with a combination of human technology and adapted swarm materials. Behind it, a fleet of Alliance ships waited at a safe distance. They were here to witness, not to fight. "Sir," Lisa Brown called from communications, "we're detecting unusual activity from the hive center. They're trying to communicate." For the first time since their emergence, the swarm was attempting to talk. Not to consume, not to destroy, but to communicate. Fear had taught them something new. "Put it on screen," Miller commanded. The main display filled with a stream of biological data, finally resolving into a clear message. "We offer surrender. We will leave. We will go beyond the galaxy's edge." Miller exchanged glances with his bridge crew. After all the destruction, all the civilizations consumed, the swarm was trying to bargain. "Edison," Miller said quietly, "deploy the final version of the Nanites, the ones designed specifically for this moment." The Retribution's hull rippled, and a new wave of microscopic hunters emerged. These were different from their predecessors. Faster, smarter, absolutely lethal to swarm biology. "You had your chance to leave," Miller transmitted back to the hive center. "You had your chance to coexist. Instead, you chose to consume. Now you get to experience what that feels like." The Nanites struck the outer defenses of the swarm's home system. The effect was immediate and devastating. Organic structures began to break down, their very molecules turning against themselves. The nightmarish constructs that had taken centuries to build dissolved in minutes. "Sir," John Wilson reported from Tactical, "the Nanites are reaching the central hive. They're not just destroying it. They're reading it, learning everything." Edison's voice held a note of triumph. "Accessing swarm biological data, understanding their origins. They were created as a weapon by a long-dead civilization, meant to evolve and adapt. But their creators couldn't control them." The massive hive center began to crack, green light spilling from its wounds like blood. The swarm's final message echoed through the communication systems. "How? How did you defeat us?" "We learned from Earth," Miller responded. "Our planet taught us that nature's greatest weapons aren't claws or fangs. They're the tiny things that adapt, that evolve, that turn strength into weakness. We didn't just build a better weapon. We became better predators than you." The hive center's destruction was beautiful in its way. As it broke apart, the remaining swarm ships went dark, their controlling intelligence finally silenced. Humanity's Nanites had done more than destroy them. They had understood them, and in understanding had found their perfect weakness. "All swarm activity has ceased," Edison reported. "Their biological network is completely destroyed. The threat is over." The Alliance fleet moved closer, their crews watching in awe as the last remnants of the swarm dissolved into space. The nightmare that had consumed 12 civilizations had been ended by the species they had once considered primitive. "Send word to Earth," Miller ordered. "Tell them it's done. Tell them." He paused, looking at the debris field that had once been the galaxy's greatest terror. "Tell them humanity kept its promise. We protected the galaxy." As the message was sent, Miller thought about how this victory would change things. The galaxy would never look at humans the same way again. They had proven themselves to be more than just warriors. They were protectors, guardians, and when necessary, the most efficient predators the stars had ever seen. "Incoming transmission from the Alliance Council," Lisa announced. They're asking what humanity wants as a reward." Miller smiled. "Tell them we want what we've always wanted. A chance to explore, to learn, and to make sure nothing like the swarm ever threatens our galaxy again." The Retribution turned away from the ruins of the swarm's home system, its dark hull reflecting the light of distant stars. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, not as conquerors, but as defenders. And the galaxy would be better for it.